It is a Thursday, the 14th of June, 2024, and the time is exactly 15 minutes past the hour of 10 o'clock. Greetings, land of the brave and beyond, and a very warm welcome to your Thursday morning edition of the Cabinet Committee briefing session. As always, we are coming to you live and direct from the Government Information. And thank you so much, Namibia, for tuning in. We are urging you all to be part of the conversation. You can follow the discussions on our social media platforms. On Facebook, we are live at Ministry of Information and Communications Technology. Alternatively, you can stream us live on our YouTube channel, and our handle there is MICT Namibia. Now, to our first-time viewers and listeners, in case you are wondering, you are tuned into the Cabinet Committee briefing session, a national platform initiated by the Government of the Republic of Namibia, emanating from the Government Communication Strategy rolled out late last year by the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology. Now, the platform is initiated to serve as a conduit for transmitting information on public programs, policy formulations and advancements, but also strategic implementations within the respective offices, ministries, and agencies. And of course, the aim thereof is to fast-track information dissemination across all organs of government. For this morning's edition, I am your host, Hileni Felepa-Samunyela, and it's my fiduciary duty to welcome in studio the Honorable Minister of Justice, Yvonne Dausep, to present to the Namibian nation her ministerial update. Once again, Honorable Minister, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on board this morning. You may take the podium.
Thank you very much, Hileni, and good morning, fellow Namibians. I'm very pleased to address you this morning and share an update on the key highlights and accomplishments of the Ministry of Justice in the first half of 2024 since our last update in December 2023. The Ministry of Justice remains committed to uphold the rule of law, promote a culture of human rights, facilitate law reform and support the legislative agenda of the country overall, and ensure access to justice for all citizens through the provision of legal aid, increased support of community courts, and supporting efforts to employ more judicial officers and build more courts. We reaffirm our commitment to the values of integrity, transparency, accountability, and people-centered service excellence. I want to share a little bit more about some of our key functions, but also the activities that we've been undertaking over the past 6 months. Our service delivery and core functions. The Ministry of Justice delivers its services through several key service centers, including legal aid, where state-funded legal representation is provided to litigants that cannot afford a lawyer, legislative drafting, where we translate policy for all government offices, ministries, and agencies into law reform policy and legislation, serving as a secretariat to the Law Reform and Development Commission, and drafting policy and legislation for the Ministry of Justice. Legal services, through which we facilitate international cooperation in various legal fields with other countries, UN agencies, the Commonwealth, the African Union, and SADC. The Master of the High Court, where we supervise the administration of deceased estates, insolvencies, trusts, the Guardians Fund, and curatorships. And finally, our youngest directorate, community courts, through which we ensure access to justice at the community level through the 37 courts established across the country. Additionally, the directorates, public prosecution, civil litigation, government attorney, and legal advice also fall under the Ministry of Justice and serve the Attorney General and the Prosecutor General. The Ministry of Justice is further responsible for the execution of capital projects relating to infrastructure development for both the Ministry of Justice and the Office of the Judiciary, as mandated in terms of the Office of the Judiciary Act 11 of 2015. The Directorate Central Administration currently also provides administrative and budget support services to 3 constitutional appointees, namely the Attorney General, the Prosecutor General, and the Ombudsman. It has been approximately 6 months since our last briefing, and I'm pleased to share both ongoing and new developments with you this morning. Our oral submission to the International Court of Justice. In February 2024, during the first decision-making meeting of the Cabinet, a significant decision was taken regarding Namibia's participation in the International Court of Justice on the situation in the state of Palestine. On February 2024, Namibia made oral submissions to the ICJ through the Minister of Justice concerning the advisory opinion on the legal consequences arising from the policies and practices of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem. This stems from written submissions made by Namibia in July 2023. Our involvement in this case underscores our continued commitment to the cause of the people of Palestine and their right to self-determination, given our own history under apartheid South Africa. Implementation of the Customer Service Charter. I'm proud to announce that the Ministry of Justice scored 90% in the audit conducted by the Office of the Prime Minister to establish the level of implementation of the Customer Service Charter in offices, ministries, and agencies. This achievement reflects our dedication to service excellence and continuous improvement. I must admit that we might not be meeting our service standards in all areas of our operations, but we are confident that through a robust business process reengineering, we commit to improve those areas where the public is not entirely happy with us. In this regard, the development of electronic case management systems and the provision of fully accessible online services soon are key priorities. Our strategic intent for 2025 to 2030, to 2030. From 21 to 22 May 2024, the Ministry hosted its strategic planning workshop in Swakopmund. The aim of a strategic plan for the Ministry of Justice is to outline a comprehensive and forward-looking plan for the period 2025 to 2030 that guides the Ministry's efforts in achieving its mission, vision, and key objectives. This plan will serve as a blueprint for the Ministry's activities and initiatives, ensuring that all actions are aligned with the broader goals of justice, equity, a sustained culture of the rule of law and human rights, and a people-centered public service way of doing things. Looking ahead to the 2025 to 2030 period, we have identified key objectives to enhance people-centered service delivery. Our vision is to provide just, fair, and transparent legal services to all Namibians. As Mahatma Gandhi once said, and I quote, "A customer is not an interruption to our work. He or she is the purpose of it," end of quote. A service mantra we intend as the Ministry of Justice to adopt as part of our new strategic vision and intent. On youth employment. Our commitment to empowering the youth is evident in our robust internship program. Over the past financial year, this program has provided valuable experience to over 200 young individuals, with approximately 20 securing permanent positions within the Ministry of Justice and others securing permanent employment elsewhere. In the Office of the Minister, there are 4 Namibian interns, with 3 graduates from the University of Namibia Faculty of Law, 1 still studying at Skidmore College in Saratoga Springs in New York State, and 1 international employment for many of our youth. On increased threshold for legal aid qualification, furthermore, I'm pleased to announce amendments to the legal aid regulations under the Legal Aid Act 29 of 1990. These amendments significantly increase access to justice for people who would otherwise not afford a lawyer by increasing the income threshold for legal aid applicants. A person may now qualify for legal aid if their monthly income does not exceed 7,000 Namibian dollars. This is a 100% increase from the previous threshold, which was 3,500 Namibian dollars. This increased threshold ensures that more individuals will have legal representation at the state's expense. This effort is to enhance access to justice. During the financial year 2023 to 2024, the Directorate Legal Aid received a total of 9,519 legal aid applications. Of these applications, 5,863 were granted, 2,831 were unsuccessful, and 787 are still pending, awaiting further information. A total budget of 25 million was allocated by Treasury for this purpose. On legislative reforms, on 11 June 2024, the Ministry of Justice presented the divorce bill to the National Assembly. This significant piece of legislation aims to consolidate and reform outdated laws regarding divorces related to civil marriage, the legislative process. The ministry is also in the process of finalizing other bills, namely Child Justice Bill, Ombudsman Bill, Prevention and Combating of Torture Bill, the Small Claims Court Bill, the Legal Aid Amendment Bill, the Administration of Estates Amendment Bill, and the Deceased Estates Practitioners Bill. Our aim is to have all these bills finalized for tabling before the Cabinet Committee on Legislation and/or Parliament during this financial year. But we recognize that there are limitations, particularly in an election year with equally competing activities. On the Witness Protection Unit, the Witness Protection Unit, as established in terms of the Witness Protection Act, is now fully operational. However, some elements of the permanent staff structure are still pending. The team that is currently seconded to the unit has done a benchmarking to South Africa in May 2024, and further collaboration with South Africa has been established for technical assistance in respect of some practical modalities. We continue to have consultations with stakeholders regarding the operationalization of the Whistleblower Protection Act, and new developments in this regard will be shared soon. On capital projects, and this is the last point I will be discussing here, is the ministry, through its capital projects division, has completed the construction of a new magistrates court in Katima Mulilo. A team of officials from the ministry and the Office of the Judiciary are currently in Katima Mulilo conducting final inspections. The court will be officially handed over to the Ministry of Justice and the Office of the Judiciary on 14 June 2024. Following this, the court personnel will start occupying the building in July 2024, and an official inauguration will follow. We have also completed the renovations to the Walvis Bay Magistrates Court, with the Waganas Periodical Court nearing completion in terms of its project. Additionally, we are excited to share with our Namibian public our plans for the construction of a gender-based violence court in Keetmanshoop. The procurement of a contractor for this project is currently underway, and we are committed to advancing this initiative as swiftly as possible. The project for the construction of a court building for Nkurenkuru is also underway, and construction is planned to commence in this financial year. The establishment of these courts underscores our commitment to enhancing the judiciary's capacity to administer justice in a timely and effective manner. Courts play a critical role in upholding the rule of law, ensuring that justice is served, and protecting the rights of all citizens. The ministry remains dedicated to strengthening our legal system and ensuring that justice is accessible to everyone. Before I thank you for your attention, I want to take this opportunity as a member of the society and remind all of our Namibian citizens to go out and register to vote. I particularly want to implore our youth, 71% of our society, to please take this opportunity since the 3rd of June to the 31st of August 2024 to get your voter's card and vote in these very, very important elections scheduled for 27 November 2024. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for that very comprehensive report on projects, programs, strategic implementations within your ministry that your ministry has successfully accomplished during the time when you were here 6 months ago and to date. It is very, very highly appreciated and well noted. Refreshing to know what the ministry or what the hard work that goes in behind, it is just notable to commend the ministry for the hard work that you and your team are doing at the background. Really, it's really, really very highly appreciated. Now, the next segment is intentionally reserved for the media. We are pleading with the media houses present here, the journalists present this morning. If you have questions for the Honorable Minister, please step closer to the podium and briefly put your questions and introduce yourself as well as the media house you represent.
Hello, Honorable Minister. My name is Donald Matthews. I'm a journalist with the Namibian newspaper. On the divorce bill that was in Parliament currently, SAPO parliamentarian Shakiro Toya suggested that the bill be delayed until the definition of spouse is clarified in the bills that were proposed by Honorable Jiria Kanjo. So what are your views on that? And secondly, should the bills come into play, is the Justice Ministry ready for the avalanche of cases that may come through? And last year, the Magistrate Court Amendment Bill was the act was passed. So I just want to know what is the process with that one? When will it become operational? Thank you.
Okay. Have you taken note of the questions, Honorable? Do we have any more media representative? Okay. Kindly introduce yourself and the media house you represent.
Yes, good morning, Minister. My name is Alexander Mjebo from Confidente newspaper. I have two questions. The first question is that the divorce bill that you tabled in Parliament, can it wait for the individual bill that was tabled by Honorable Kanjo to be finalized, since we have the definition of the word spouse that is needed? And in your bill, we also have we are waiting for the definition of spouses, like spouses to benefit from the bill, from the divorce bill. Can't maybe the bill wait for the finalization of the Honorable Kanjo's bill to be tabled? And the other question is that in Oshkoto region, there's only one court in Ondangwa, and then the residents are finding it hard to access that court. Can the ministry maybe open a court in Omthia, since we have the one in Tsumeb? Can it open a court in Omthia so that the residents can maybe find it easier to access the court? Thank you.
Okay. So those are all the questions we have from the media today. Okay. Honorable Minister, the floor is yours. You can respond.
Thank you very much, Helene, and also thank you to the two journalists from the Namibian and the Confidente newspaper for those important questions, and also important because the tabling of the divorce bill was an important step as far as we are concerned in the right direction. The issue of dissolution of marriages has been a difficult conversation, at least from our perspective as a Ministry of Justice, for over 20 years. A lot of conversation has gone into it. A lot of consultation has gone into it. You can imagine in the lawmaking process, not every little concern that has been raised and every little proposal that has been made can be accommodated. But we've made every effort to cover as much concerns that have been raised during the consultation process in the final text of the bill. But you can also understand that when we take a bill to the National Assembly, the intention is for lawmakers who are the ultimate custodians of that piece of legislation, because they have to own it, to satisfy themselves that they're happy with the content of the bill. And that's why this is such an important process. We remain of the view that the definition of spouse was not intended to be in the divorce legislation. Definition of spouse and what marriage is has always been part of the marriage legislation. We currently have a Marriage Act of 1961, which is still applicable. That it has the definition that is provided for in that particular piece of legislation has not changed. The common law definition of spouse and how we understand it in terms of that piece of legislation has not changed. I'm aware that the minister responsible for Home Affairs, Safety, Security and Immigration Control, Honorable Dr. Kawana, intends to table a marriage bill, which will very, very comprehensively address the definitional aspects of marriage, but also of spouse specifically. I don't agree that we should delay the discussions, because the lawmaking process in the National Assembly takes a bit of time. That particular piece of legislation will probably be tabled over the next 2 weeks or so. It is currently, I know that it's been certified by the Attorney General. It will go through some proofreading by the legislative drafters, and it will then go back to the table office. So I'm confident that over the next 2 weeks, that particular piece of legislation would be tabled, and these two pieces of legislation can actually be discussed. It will be a good platform to have this conversation between marriage and divorce happen at the same time. I don't think we should unnecessarily delay the discussions that can already ensue in respect of the divorce bill while we are waiting for the marriage bill to be tabled. I don't agree that the definition of spouse, as our members have discussed it, should be in the divorce bill, because divorce is a consequence of marriage. And once marriage has been defined and spouse is defined in the marriage legislation, that should cover that particular aspect. In terms of and I'm not sure whether I understood your second question correctly, but the question that deals with the rules, the amendment of the Magistrates Court Amendment Act now that has been promulgated by the ascension of the attachment of the signature of the President on those pieces of legislation, is that we have now requested the Office of the Judiciary to ensure that the rules that are associated with the amendments that we've made in those particular pieces of legislation are passed. There is a rules committee under the leadership of the Judge President at the Office of the Judiciary. Once they sit and they look at the text of the law and see which substantive provisions will require changes to the rules, we will then operationalize those pieces of legislation. I'm hopeful that it will also happen in the quickest possible time. We have certainly, as the Ministry of Justice, done our part in informing the judiciary to make sure that those rules are done. Like I said in my statement, we recognize that if we want to ensure that there is access to courts, we decongest our courts, and now that we have more than 3 million Namibians in our country, we need to build more courts. We recognize that. We also recognize that we need to appoint more judicial officers. We need to appoint more legal aid lawyers. We need to appoint more prosecutors. So Omthea is definitely on the cards. I have confirmation from my executive director that it's probably going to be considered for inclusion in the budget for our next cycle. So I'm confident, and we have certainly recognized ourselves that Umthia is a big area, and it's a big district as far as cases are concerned. And so that's certainly on our list of courts that need, or places that need a court in the quickest possible time. I'm not sure, Helene, whether I have covered all of I think both of you asked the questions about Honorable Ekanjo's bills.
Yes.
I'm unable to make any comments on Honorable Ekanjo's bills because those bills are still currently with the Office of the President, but I can certainly say that the marriage bill would address the concerns that the honorable members had about these two bills working together.
Indeed. Indeed, Honourable Minister, that is briefly put. The colleagues that posted the questions, do we have any more questions from the media? Okay, are you happy? Your questions were addressed? Satisfied? Okay. Now, Honourable Minister, it's been an absolute pleasure. We appreciate you always setting time aside from your busy schedule to come and educate us here. It is really, really important that we know about some of these very critical discussions that are currently trending, especially the divorce bill that you recently tabled. We are looking forward to the bill being passed, and hopefully a lot of issues can be tackled with regards to divorce. But this is also all the time we had for today's discussion. I would now like to accord you, Honourable Minister. Perhaps you have some last remarks that you would like to make.
I just want to say that at all material times, the Ministry of Justice, and certainly for us as ministers, and I hope I speak for many of my colleagues, we are public servants. We are here to serve the needs of our people, and we try every chance we get to be a bit more responsive. We have challenges, there are resource limitations, and I'm not just talking about finances, and I'm also talking about human resource capacity. And so we're doing all we can as a ministry. I'm sure at the next update, we will certainly share a bit more on some of the human resource development improvements that we've made, some of the satellite offices that we want to open for the Master's Office and some of the developments that are happening there. So we are not sleeping, we are thinking all the time about how do we ensure that Namibians have